yeah, so if you want to see the Facebook live, it's in the active living. Sorry, let me just have a look, make sure I'm saying the right thing here.
I'll type it there.
Yes, Facebook Climate Fest Brampton.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to welcome the panelists, the attendees, the background technical people who've been helping us here. I want to say thank you very much for your time and your attendance. This is the part 2 of the active living session that we're having. And the main focus area for this active living and climate action festival is climate action, food security, biodiversity, and environment. This is part of the Heart Lake Run and sponsored by the City of Brampton. So again, thank you very much to our sponsors and our main hosts today. Main event holders are the Heart Lake Run. And with challenges with the Heart Lake Run, we couldn't do a physical Heart Lake Run. So we decided, let's do something virtual that'll promote all these focus areas that I did mention and bring value to people as well. So, and to keep the momentum and keeping people in touch as well. And with that said, we managed to get amazing lineup of speakers here, and I'm looking forward to this session this afternoon. With that said, I would like to welcome our president of KCA as well as of the Heart Lake Run to introduce and say a few words. So Ephraim, over to you.
Thank you, Farhan. So good afternoon, everyone. First of all is to thank you for the great opportunity for the panelists who have turned up, the experts. We're very lucky to have you here. And also like to thank the team that has put this together. As Farhan said, this is the second session of our festival today. We had a very successful session in the morning, and everyone has been looking forward to this second session. We have a very great team that has come forward, the champions of environment and climate action. They are here, and everyone is waiting to hear what you have to say. So we're very happy to have you. And I must say that myself, I'm very thrilled that despite COVID-19, COVID-19 pandemic, we remained resilient, and at least we have managed to do something before the year ends. So before I go further, I would like to just highlight a few things about the Heart Lake Run. For those who are not there in the morning session, so I'll share my slide. So just to give you a bit of a background of the festival, so Active Living and Climate Action Festival it's one of the very important events that we hold in our calendar year for Heart Lake Run. And Heart Lake Run is not just an event, it's a non-profit. It's a federal non-profit that is incorporated here in Canada. And we seek to address the most critical sustainable development challenges through local solutions and initiatives, that is including sports. So the key challenges we focus on in support of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or what we call SDGs, is number 1, zero hunger. That is goal number 2. Good health and well-being, goal number 3. Life on land, goal number 15. And of course, climate action, goal number 13. Well-being, goal number 3. Life on. So Heart Lake Run is a member of Ontario Environment Network, and we are very lucky today here to have the secretary for OEN, and she's gonna speak to us. We are also members of the Brampton Board of Trade, because of course, as you know, without all the stakeholders, we are not able to push or advocate for climate action and other environmental initiatives that we have. So what are the sustainable development goals? Basically, as you all remember, at the turn of the millennium, we had what we used to call the Millennium Development Goals, and they was started from the year 2000 to the year 2015, and they were quite well accomplished. And after that, the United Nations transitioned into what we call the global goals. So we have sustainable development goals, and there are 17 of them. So what happened is Hartlikran picked the key goals that we want to focus on. Remember, you cannot focus on everything. But it took some of the most critical ones. And we took the goal number 2, that is the zero hunger or no hunger. Goal number 3, good health. Goal number 13, climate action. And goal number 15, that is on life on land. And that's why we have the environment conservation. So I'd like us to look at some of these goals and how they have informed the programs that we run. So Hartlikran has 4 key programs. So the first program we run is what we call food security. And that's an intervention that is trying to help us address the issue of the zero hunger. So over the last 2 years, almost 3 years now, we've had a community garden that we've been working in collaboration with the Hartlick Community Food Cupboard and Hartlick United Church. So the Hartlick United Church provided a land, a garden within their compound, and then the peer paramedics stepped in and helped us to fence. And all along, the City of Brampton has been very supportive with the seeds, and the Hartlick community also has been very responsive through the Hartlick happenings, and other donors and volunteers have been actually helping us to make sure that we run this garden. So we've had very good harvest over the last 2 years, almost 3 years now. And we have been donating those harvests to the Hartlick Community Food Cupboard. So this year was very, very fruitful, and we've had a lot of support from the community. So this is one of the ways that we're intervening in terms of trying to address the issue of food security. And that supports the interventions for zero hunger. So over there, you can see this year we actually try to reinforce the fencing around the place. And Cole is here and Christina. Actually, they really helped us to fence around the garden. So we really appreciate, and we're that's what I'm saying, I'm very happy to have them here. They are champions of even food security as much as they are for environment. So the other program we have is the active living, and that's basically tries to address the good health and well-being global goal, and that's the goal number 3. So that's why we have Hartlick Run. Last year we managed to do the plugging walkathon. Plugging is walking as you collect litter, and we're trying to encourage the community as much as we live in an active lifestyle. We can also do so as we try to address issues of the environment. So there are various interventions that we have on active living, and they are very beneficial to the community at large. But basically, I know most people don't really understand what is active living. So basically, this is a way of life that integrates physical activity into your everyday routines, such as walking or biking. So it generally combines physical activity and recreational activities aimed at the general public to encourage healthier lifestyle. So why is it important? So living an active life is important to stay healthy. So staying active helps to reduce your risk of various conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. So exercise has also been linked to improved mental health and cognitive function. So, and in the morning session, we had quite a robust presentation on various ways of being active. So this session, actually, we'll see how that connects with the climate action and environment. So these are the various examples of active living. So you can walk, you can dance, you can do yoga, you go shopping, housework, gardening, cycling, even doing volunteer activities actually is part of active living. swimming, strength training, getting out to visit others, of course, not during the COVID-19 pandemic. You can play with your grandchildren for the seniors or golfing. So there are various benefits you derive from regular physical activities. So there's continued independent living, better physical and mental health, improved quality of life. You get more energy, and of course you move with fewer aches and pains. You get better posture and balance. You have also improved self-esteem, weight balance, stronger muscles and bones, relaxation and reduced stress. There are many other benefits. There is an area of benefits that come from regular physical activity. The other key program, which is mainly a key focus, is the goal number 15. And from that, we have environment conservation. Over the last 2 years, we've been working closely with various stakeholders, including Toronto and TRCA. That's the conservation authority within the Toronto region. And through the Hadley Conservation Area and also the City of Brampton, Parks and Recreation, and other community groups. And of course, very soon we'll be working very closely with Bill and Cole on environment cleanup. So we're doing a bit of tree planting. And also we are advocating for single-use plastic ban. So we also, through our workshops and seminars and webinars like this, we are doing education on environment conservation. So the other program that we have come up with is a climate action. As you know, the issue of climate change is very, very key at the moment. It's one of the major threats to the world today. Just like you're seeing the COVID-19 pandemic. So we should not slight the dangers of climate change. So there are various ways of interventions that we are working on that, working with the various stakeholders, including the government agencies, all the way from federal. In the morning, we had very good presentations from the political leaders, and we've been trying to engage them on how to reduce emissions, how to build, to work on building a better infrastructure that accommodates climate mitigation and adaptation measures. And also we're trying to see how we can advocate more through public awareness on climate action. And so basically, this year we were not able to hold Hartrick Run. Last year we did the plugging walkathon. We had planned to do 3K walk and 5K run and walk this year, but because of COVID-19, we had it canceled. So basically, in a nutshell, without taking much time, that's all I wanted to say for today, for this session. And I'm very happy that we have, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I'm also just as eager as you are waiting to hear from our panelists. Thank you very much. Back to you, Farhan.
Thank you, Ephraim. That was really good. Appreciate it. Lots of information there. Now, for our next speaker, let me just quickly prepare myself here. Our next speaker is Aleksandra Spasevski. I hope I've said that right. She's the Secretary of Ontario Environmental Network and has been part of OEN's board of directors for the past 5 years. She has worked and volunteered for various non-for-profit and charitable organizations such as Sierra Club Canada and the Coalition of the Niagara Escarpment. Alex co-found the Canadian Youth Biodiversity Network and sits on the board of Protect Our Water and Environmental Resources. Alex is a master's student at the York University of Waterloo's School of Environment, Enterprise and Development. Her research focuses on youth engagement and challenges that youth face in current corporate structure. Alex is currently at the University of Waterloo's Youth and Innovation Project Youth Advisory Council Coordinator. With that, Alex, welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to just share my slides because it's a lot more entertaining when there's something to look at. Please let me know if you can see it. Yes?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so hello, everyone. As Farhan said, my name is Aleksandra Spasevski. I'm going to be talking about biodiversity, sustainability, and community involvement, which is really what OEN has been focusing on for the past 50 years. As you said, I'm the secretary to the Ontario Environmental Network. I'm a part of various organizations, and the two that I highlighted are the Canadian Youth Biodiversity Network and POWER, because we are also a part of OEN, just like Heart Lake Run. The Ontario Environment Network is a non-for-profit organization. We're pretty much a organization made up of different organizations who all do various work to protect, conserve, restore, and promote a clean, healthy, sustainable environment for present and future generations. All of our members do amazing things and are doing such different things. With Heart Lake Run doing healthy, active living. We also have groups working on ecosystem restoration and other groups being policy watchdogs. OEN does a little bit of both. We mainly coordinate our members so that we ensure their success, as well as we attend various international meetings so that we have the voice of the nonprofits at the international level. So that's just a little bit about OEN. If you are interested in learning more about us or joining the OEN as a subscriber or a member, you can go to our website at oen.ca for more information. Shameless plug, but I'm happy to do it for a great group. So OEN, again, we focus on a few different things, biodiversity, sustainability being one of them. And so I thought if we're doing an environmental session, we should introduce some of these topics so that we're all caught up on the same page and the same baseline. So biodiversity or biological diversity was first coined in the 60s, and it pretty much means everything. It means the genes, the species, ecosystems, the goods and services they provide, and the relationship between them. And the real challenge is, how do you measure everything and the relationship between everything? Researchers, scientists have all tried, and they do have some strategies, but overall it's difficult to quantify. What we do know is that there's factors influencing biodiversity, and I work with a lot of youth and a lot of children, and so I've summarized it into a happy little acronym called HIPPO, and it's the first H is habitat loss, so we're converting a lot of natural land spaces into agricultural fields, urban spaces. Even putting a road directly through a forest is not good, and it does a lot more damage than we think initially. Invasive species. So invasive species are, if you don't know, are categorized by any organism that is introduced to a new environment and not only thrive, but outcompete all of the native species. I'm just going to list some insects because I love insects personally, but some of the more well-known ones are the emerald ash borer, which decimated our ash trees, or the mountain pine beetle, which are more prominent out west, but have a huge component into why we have so much wildfires lately. Moving on to pollution, I don't think I need to say much about pollution because I think we all know why it's very bad, but between the fossil fuel being burned, the oil spills, the pesticides being used, pollution is a huge driver for biodiversity loss. Population is the second P in HIPPO, and when I talk about population, I mainly mean our human population because we have such a presence on Earth, and which leads to O, which is overconsumption. We have a hard time distinguishing between needs and wants, and as a result, we are relying too much on our natural resources. And so that it is in a nutshell what biodiversity is, because it's really hard to condense it into just a minute, but in an essence, it is everything on Earth. Why is it so important to us and why should we protect it is mainly because it offers us a bunch of services that we may not necessarily think about. The first being the supporting services, and those are services like the nutrient cycle, soil formation, and primary productivity. I mean, those are great, but it's very necessary when we talk about the other services like provisioning services. How do you have food, fuel, wood, fiber without services such as the nutrient cycle and soil formation? We next have our regulating services, which is such as climate, and climate is different than weather, FYI. It's not day-to-day things, it's over a 30-year span. We also have flood and water regulation, which if we preserve biodiversity, we'll have less flood issues and overall better natural disaster prevention. Water purification and pollination. One note about pollination is that humans have tried to pollinate things on their own. We are not built for being pollinators, so we need to protect our native pollinators so that they are doing their service. And finally, cultural services, which is the cultural things we get from it. So that's preserving traditional knowledge and ensuring that the indigenous people have a right, a voice, and biodiversity provides that. We also have ecotourism, which is huge for the Niagara Escarpment as it's a biosphere reserve. The more well-known ecotourism site is probably Niagara Falls, but there are a lot more ecotourism sites that we should explore. And finally, education. I said that I teach a lot of children in my free time because it's a lot more fun and a lot more beneficial to be out on the landscape talking about biodiversity rather than sitting on a webinar, even though this webinar is absolutely amazing. I'm just pointing it out there. So how should we protect it? We know what it is now, we know what it provides us, and there are different ways we protect it. There are groups that focus just on species preservation. So there's one group that focuses just on monarch butterflies, and they'll do everything they can to have habitat, food, ensure their offspring are viable. And that's great, and it's fantastic for species at risk or endangered species. But certainly ecosystem preservation is a lot easier when you think about it, because rather than protecting one species, you're protecting an entire area and hoping that the system and ensuring that that area has everything they need to survive. Ecosystem preservation also looks out for species we don't even know that are there, that are endangered. We also have policy and legal protection. So Ontario has the Endangered Species Act and protected areas, and Canada has the Species at Risk Act. At the international level, where OEN thinks about a lot are the multilateral environmental agreements. So there's the Ramsar Convention for the wetlands, which is fantastic and focused just on the wetlands. But the one that I wanted to highlight was the Convention on Biological Diversity, which really thinks about all of biodiversity in different aspects, not just species, not just ecosystems, but also even genetic diversity and how traditional knowledge plays a role and local communities play a role, and the stakeholders involved. And if you're interested in learning more on the convention, we actually have the Secretariat in Montreal. So it's a great resource to have in Canada, and we should be looking more to explore that. But there are barriers to protecting biodiversity, and that's just social welfare. There's a lot of other things that are happening, as well as financial constraints. So that's where sustainability comes in. So sustainability really is just meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. It's based upon 3 pillars, and that's the economy, the environment, and social welfare. It's an intercollaborative approach where nothing is prioritized over another. You can make the argument right now that the economy is prioritized over environmental and social needs. But if sustainability is to succeed, all 3 things need to be taken into account when making these policy or business decisions to guarantee the welfare of the future generation. We face a number of risks involved in sustainable development. Mitigation and adaptation to climate change is certainly one of the more pressing concerns, as well as the continuous high volume of carbon dioxide being burned. We also face social welfare risks, such as in Northern Ontario and Canada, there's water and food shortages and access to both as populations continue to rise. I'm not going to go too much into the economic, because mainly I'm not an expert in it, but the financial sector, there's enough to be said that they can lead sustainability if they choose to by financing a more sustainable direction, because unlimited growth is not possible in a world with limited resources. We need to preserve natural capital and resources to guarantee the availability of future generations. Again, I'm not the expert, but if you are interested, I can provide more information later on if you are interested to learning the role of financial institutions. But this brings to the SDGs, which Ephraim did a great job summarizing. There are 17 goals and 169 targets, and there were really a call for urgent action by all countries in a global partnership. So the 2030 agenda was adapted, and all countries have signed and ratified, apart from a few, but Canada is certainly one of them, which is very exciting. My personal favorite about the SDGs is that it acknowledges that obtaining things like good health and well-being and no poverty should go hand in hand with things like climate action, life below water, and even responsible consumption and production, and really should be looked at. So I would like to also highlight SDG 17, just because it's a partnership for the goals. And this SDG was really aimed at helping countries and governments work together to obtain the goals, but it is also super applicable to us people who are on the ground and working with these communities, that in order to ensure that the SDGs succeed, we have to work together and ensure that. Because again, as Ephraim said before, you can't pick all of them. It's very ambitious and eager, but you don't have the resources to get all of them. OEN specifically, we're an environmental group, and so we look at SDG 13, 14, 15, and the new one that we are focusing on is number 10, reduced inequalities. And so that's very exciting and we're very proud. But this also goes into how communities can become involved and where can we come in, because it's can be a little confusing without any help. But there are amazing ecosystem restoration projects that are occurring, like planting trees and restoring riverbanks, and they're doing a lot more financially to help than we think. I know a great example is my parents live next to a river, and every year there's a huge flooding problem. Houses are being flooded and destroyed, and that's a huge burden on financial constraints of the residents that live there. And just simply planting bushes and grasses and trees along the riverbanks just really build that up and control flooding. This is very similar to anywhere across the world, like coral reefs and preventing tidal waves, or wetlands helping against hurricanes in the States. It's all very amazing if you think about it. Fun fact also, for the Convention on Biodiversity has announced that ecosystem restoration is a priority for them for the next 10 years. Last year was biodiversity, this decade is ecosystem restoration. So there's a huge push by a lot of different organizations and a lot of funding for ecosystem restoration projects. The next is community gardens. So Ephraim pointed out that you guys have been doing amazing stuff for community gardens. It's fantastic, especially for people who need a little bit more support and food, but also providing pollinators access to food all year round, and as well as getting outside. Citizen science is another thing I wanted to point out, because it really allows people to take ownership of the environment that they're in. And allows for them to, it's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to learn and you have to get out there and be in the environment, but it's absolutely rewarding. There's even incentives for kids. I don't know if the Toronto Zoo is doing this anymore, but it was an amazing program where they gave kids turtle tallies and frog watches, and they made them go out and count all the turtles and frogs that they saw. And as an incentive to register them on their website, they were able to go to the zoo for free. So there's a lot of different programs and projects going around for citizen science of just taking ownership of your own backyard. And then finally, education and research, which again, this webinar does a great job, is just getting out there and telling people about these amazing things that are happening and just the information. And it's a lot easier just to say, instead of saying, hey, do you want to talk about the polar bears or the environment? You have to relate it to them and make it more personal and just say, do you want to talk about your park and what's happening in your backyard? It's very much rewarding. And as a result, people will tell other people. Like the kids that I worked with told their parents, and we got their parents involved, and it was just a domino effect of everything. So I shortened my presentation because I didn't want to take too much of everyone's time, but I really want to thank you guys for letting me speak. And if you guys have questions, even after this day is over, you can absolutely reach out, and I would love to chat. Thanks.
That was a fantastic presentation, Alex. Lots of information here. And especially when you mentioned hippo, you got lots of Africans, especially from Kenya here. It means something different, but really got us got our attention there too. But, that was pretty good. Thanks. Just a reminder to everyone, Alex, I would ask you if you can put your email address in the chat box. So if anyone else wants to have that handy, please. And to all the other speakers, when you do speak, if you can put those details there as well. Let me remind everyone here, if you have any questions for our speakers, our panelists, if you can address the question to who you want to answer them, and put your question there, this way it'll get answered quickly. And to the panelists, if you are presenting, obviously you won't be able to, you're concentrating on your presentation, but afterwards, if somebody else asks a question and you have time, you can go to the Q&A. If it's addressed to you, you can answer it on the chat, so that this way, at the end of the session, we'll have fewer questions to ask everyone. So with that said, I also want to remind everybody that towards the end of this program, we would appreciate the attendees to please respond to the survey. This way it'll help us improve our webinars as well. Without much ado, let's move on to our next speaker. David, I'm glad you made it. So David Laing is the chair of Bike Brampton. David is a longtime project manager and management consultant who has lived in Brampton for more than 40 years. He's an advocate for Brampton-based environmental initiatives to mitigate the effects of the changing climate. He is the chair of Bike Brampton, which is an advocacy group in support of active transportation choices for Brampton and Peel region. He is also a citizen member and past co-chair of the Brampton Environmental Advisory Committee, a member of the City of Brampton's Task Force for Community, Energy and Emissions Reductions Program, a David Suzuki Foundation Elder, an executive member of the Peel chapter of Sierra Club, and a member of Toronto and Region Conservation Authority's Joint Watershed Coalition. David cycles thousands of kilometers each year, displacing what would normally have been car journeys. In the last 3 years, David has begun enjoying the benefits of cyclotourism, having bicycled over 600 kilometers from Ottawa to Brampton in 2017 and over 1,000 kilometers along the north shore of Lake Erie in 2018 and 2019. With that, David, over to you.
Well, thanks so much, Farhan, for that introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. So if you just bear with me for a second here. Actually, what I want to do.
No problem. And to those who are listening, he was in the morning presentation as well. So really appreciate it.
Yes, and for those that were in the morning presentation, there is some overlap from this morning, but I feel that it's relevant. So for the discussion that we're going to have this afternoon. So can you see my presentation? Is it coming up?
Yes, I can. Yes, it is.
Okay, terrific. Thanks. Okay, so I entitled my presentation, Active Transportation for Healthy People and Healthy Planet. And you'll see why the intersection of those 2 points is so important as I go through my presentation. The agenda that I want to cover today is to really focus on how some of the aspects of active transportation specifically it contributes to solving a lot of community problems, and we call it multi-solving. And but you also find that the climate in and of itself, so climate change, requires different aspects of the community all coming together to have an impact, a positive impact on our climate change challenge. So I want to talk about both of those elements, and then I want to talk about Brampton as a sustainable community. And Ephraim has asked me to talk about the Grow Green Network, which is one of the initiatives that the Brampton City is undertaking. But I want to put it in context for you because it's kind of complicated, and so I'll try and simplify that down for you to talk about the Environmental Master Plan, the Brampton's Environmental Advisory Committee, the Grow Green Network, and then flowing into why active transportation and Bike Brampton's role, which is what I'm responsible for, and an overall methodology for change, and then how we can work together to make things better for our community and for the planet. So over the past year, COVID has really taken up all the headlines, all of the oxygen and air out of the room, all for conversation. Seems like whenever you turn on the radio or television, you hear nothing other than COVID. And yet climate change is still one of the biggest issues, and it is just marching along and getting worse every year, every month, every week. And so I'm really, really pleased that today is focused or helps us to refocus back on climate change as this huge issue that we have to tackle. But we can do it together, just like COVID. We're all in this together. And what I like to share with you is, much like the terminology that was being used last spring about flattening the COVID curve, we really can talk about how to flatten the carbon curve, the carbon emissions curve, and the impact of carbon change or climate change. And so all of these different aspects, different elements that we as individuals can contribute, it's really, really easy. And if you take a look at what was asked of us of COVID, washing hands, keeping social distance, wearing masks, not going out in public unless you absolutely have to. I mean, those are relatively, I know they're hard, but they're relatively simple requests that if each of us do it, we can combat the COVID situation. Well, the same thing is true for the environment and carbon emissions. If each of us does some small, relatively simple things, and we do it in enough numbers, we can have a tremendous impact on the amount of carbon that we're emitting, and we can stay below that danger line of ecosystem capacity collapse, which basically the previous speaker was talking about biodiversity and all of the risks associated with that. And we see that various bioecosystems are starting to collapse. The emerald ash borer and the ash trees in Brampton certainly have affected our forest canopy. So this is a way of being able to address those things. If each of us kind of keeps ourselves, or does the things that are required, we keep ourselves below the ecosystem capacity to absorb carbon, and we get out of this relatively unscathed. So it's all these things coming together. And as I say, climate change really requires a number of different aspects, but I can focus on 3 of them: land use, buildings, and transportation, right? So if we can change the way that we use land and keep some of those ecosystems intact, not pave over all of our swamplands, then that's really good. If we can maintain and improve our building efficiency, then that's really important. And if we can focus on transportation, I'll tell you more about that later. Everybody talks about the 2050 and how we're going to get to 0 carbon and by 2050, or we're going to reduce carbon by 50% by 2030. And all of that is really, really good. But for me, I need to bring this down into something more present. And what that translates into, if we're going to achieve those 30 and 50% goals, it means that we have to reduce our carbon emissions every year from now on by 7 or 8% a year. And that sounds like a big challenge, but really we can do it if we all put our heads together on it. And cities like Brampton can and must lead the way in order to be able to do that. And I was really pleased with the conversation that was had with Mayor Brown and the members of provincial parliament and members of parliament at the federal level, talking this morning about how we can all work together to bring some attention to the carbon challenge. So how do we transform our city? And I really hearken back to the 2040 vision, and I don't know how many of you participated in a lot of the community outreach that took place in 2016 and 2017 to bring the 2040 vision to life. But basically it focused on getting input from the residents of Brampton as to the type of city we want, analyzing the city that we have, which unfortunately there's a gap, and then looking at that roadmap for how do we change to achieve the city that we want by 2040 or before. And I'm so pleased that when Mayor Brown and the current council came into this council, that rather than doing what often happens when there is a movement from one council member to another, or leadership change, rather than throwing out all of the old planning that was done and trying to put a fresh face on it, they in fact embraced the 2040 vision and really made it their own and have begun to implement it with seriousness. So this is really good. So the story starts with the 2040 vision, and then it goes to the Grow Green Environmental Master Plan, which in fact was actually generated or improved by council in 2014, believe it or not, with 6 focus areas, as you can see on the screen here. And looking at it through both the community lens as well as a corporate lens. So by that, I mean setting targets for the community at large and also for the corporation of the City of Brampton along these 6 metrics. The Environmental Master Plan is just in the process of being updated now and revitalized. And so if you have some opportunity to provide some input, there's a survey on the City of Brampton's website to focus on different priorities. So check that out if you get a chance. But within the context of the Environmental Master Plan is the Brampton Environment Advisory Committee. Now this is a committee of council. So there are a number of different committees of council. The BAC is only one of those committees, but it focuses on the environment specifically and provides education and engagement from the community level to really have the citizens of Brampton be more engaged and understanding about what Brampton's initiatives are around the environment. And it's also there to advise council on planning policy and sustainability issues, and then to promote the protection, enhancement, and management of the city's natural and built environment. So that's what the Environment Advisory Committee does. And part of what, and I sat on that committee, I sat on it as co-chair, and now I'm a member of the committee. And what we decided to do was we were only 12 members, and we couldn't outreach to everybody in all 600,000 residents in the city of Brampton by ourselves. So we decided to create this thing called the Grow Green Network. And the Grow Green Network's mission was basically to advocate for, as well as develop and support collective actions, including public engagement, education programs that would help make Brampton a more sustainable community, environmentally, socially, and economically. And so the vision is for Brampton to become a sustainable community along those three elements that is both healthy and resilient. So we need to recognize that we have to have healthy environment, but we also need to be resilient to the changes that are occurring. I mean, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, there will be elements of climate change and elements of biodiversity loss that are going to hit us. And we have to be resilient to those changes and make those adaptations. So the way we do this is through collective impact. Now, collective impact basically is a shared agenda and vision, a shared measurement program that helps us to track progress and allows us to make continuous improvements along the way. It brings a whole bunch of reinforcing mutual actions together so that we're kind of like, you know, the leading edge of the wedge, trying to drive our way through to making change and transformational change in our community. It's really important for collective impact that those people that are participating in the collective have mutual trust and understanding through good communication, and there has to be a strong core team. So we've been building the Grow Green Network basically over the past 2.5 years. And the challenge has been that the last time we only got so far, and then council dissolved, and unfortunately the Grow Green Network dissolved with it. So with this new term of council, we've now been resurrecting the Grow Green Network and are bringing it back into play. And so we're doing this along two fronts. One is to create member benefits, so people will want to be, organizations will want to be, and individuals will want to be part of the network through education workshops, through partnership opportunities, and through networking. And then we also want to then provide community benefits by being able to focus that collective resource, if you will, pooling our resources and focusing on environmentally sustainable activities and actions, and having that loud voice of advocacy that really supports and drives change. So that's basically what the network is all about. This is not a complete list, but this will give you an idea of some of the organizations that currently are members of the Grow Green Network, and we're looking to add more. Heart Lake Run is one of the members of that organization, and or of the Grow Green Network, and we're really hoping to increase the number of organizational participants over time. So one of the reasons why I get so excited about sustainability, and why I got involved in cycling, and particularly cycling for transportation, is because of this slide. This is an analysis that was done a couple of years ago about the carbon emissions directly in the city of Brampton. And what you'll see here is that our transportation sector accounts for almost 60% of the total carbon emissions. And of that, approximately 80% of the 60% represent personal automobiles, so individual cars. So we really need to change the way that we move and get around this city if we're going to meet our carbon emissions targets. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And as you can see, unfortunately, most people in Ontario are driving larger and larger vehicles with lower and lower efficiency in terms of gas mileage. And so what happens is that you can see that at the top of the list in terms of carbon intensity for vehicles are the large SUV type cars. And cycling is at the bottom of the list. So, man, we can make a whole lot of change, or we can make a whole lot of dent in our carbon emissions if we can just take some of those trips that we would normally take by those large SUVs and Ford F-150 pickup and Dodge Ram Charger trucks and move them by bicycle instead. I'm not progressing a war or professing a war on the car by any matter of means. I drive a car just the same way as everybody else, but let's use the right tool for the right job. And if you look at that, the right tool for the right job, interestingly, in the region of Peel, according to the Transportation Tomorrow survey that was done a few years ago, there's almost 1 million daily trips that are taken in the region of Peel that are 7 kilometers or less. Now, if you think about it, 7 kilometers is about a 20-minute bike ride. So, you know, we think of, well, we can't travel by bike because it's too far. And yet most of the trips that we take inside of the region of Peel are in fact very easily bikeable. And if you think about the amount of fuel that those trips can consume, I did the math, and it actually is like traveling to the moon and back 5 times every day by car. And if we were to even take a small percentage of those trips and move them by bicycle instead of by car, man, it would have a big impact on our carbon emissions. So that's one reason to bike, but you know, why bike? Well, I also have some personal reasons for doing it. For those of you that hadn't noticed, my hair is gray. It's thinning a little bit. And what I found is that the studies indicate that cycling is something that I can do well into my senior years, as long as I'm reasonably able-bodied. And it not only contributes to my quantity of life, it adds years to my life, and that's been shown by the research. But it also, and perhaps more importantly for me, adds quality to my final years, particularly the final decade. So in the last 10 years, you know, most of us, unfortunately, will see a decline. We're going to see a decline, but it's the rate of decline and how much mobility we have and how much mental acuity we have, and cycling can really contribute to continuing with that, with a high quality of life. However, from a community standpoint, cycling really contributes to a much better community, economically, environmentally, and socially. So if we take a look at the impact of sustainable transportation, by that I mean anything that doesn't involve carbon emissions types vehicles, it helps to reduce our road costs. If you take a look at road maintenance costs, huge amount of money spent because we have all these vehicles traveling on these roads. Healthcare costs, weather-related costs due to climate change, and then of course the environmental impacts of climate to our quality of life and air quality, which is by the way is another huge contributor to loss of life. Something like 8 million people a year die of air pollution particulates. And then social, you know, as I say, being more active contributes very substantially to our physical and mental health. It reduces barriers between and among communities, and it actually reduces the number of road injuries and deaths. So there's this thing called safety in numbers, which basically means that the more cyclists there are on a given stretch of road, the safer that section of road will be for all road users, including cyclists, including another vulnerable road users, but also for motorists. So Ephraim alluded to the health crisis that we've got facing us. In Peel region, it's approaching 60%, actually it's over 60% obesity rates right now in Peel. And this is leading to all kinds of disease, including heart and lung and type 2 diabetes. And not only is this, you know, a human suffering issue, but it is also a huge economic issue. So if we can get a handle on you know, the causes of this, and one of the significant causes of type 2 diabetes and of obesity is lack of physical activity, lack of sufficient physical activity. And physical activity is like a miracle drug. Man, I mean, if more of us were able to get up and move around during the course of the day, we would see that it has been listed as being as powerful as drugs, as taking drugs for addressing things like blood pressure and weight. And one of the nice things about cycling for transportation is that it builds activity into our daily lives. So when we, rather than having to plan for going on a recreational ride and taking that extra time, we actually can just build it in as part of our daily activities. And by cycling to work or cycling to school, we can accumulate more than a half hour of daily physical activity just without thinking. Traffic congestion is another big issue inside the city of Brampton, the region of Peel. And the interesting thing is that the experts indicate to us that even if we had unlimited funds, we could not build sufficient road capacity to accommodate all of the growth in vehicles, because Brampton is growing from 600,000 to 900,000 by 2040. There's not enough room for all the cars if everybody continues to drive personal automobiles in the way that they have for the past 30 years. So we have to make a change. We absolutely have to make a change if we're going to avoid climate change, but also gridlock. And the interesting thing about a bike is that people say, well, you've taken up a lane of traffic with a bike lane, but if we can get 7% of people riding bikes, we actually can take more traffic off of the roads and make the bikes or make the congestion problem less as a result of cycling. So 7%, I mean, there's lots of cities in North America that have already hit that 7% mark. There is no reason why the city of Brampton can't achieve a 7% mode share. Now, unfortunately, there are still perceived and real barriers for cycling. And so what we're seeing here is, or what we're trying to do as Bike Brampton, is to address a lot of those barriers. So access to a working bike, skills and confidence, personal attitudes, it's too cold, it's too wet, it's too this, I'm too tired, all of those kinds of things. Family and friends attitudes, we're trying to change that so that people are more supportive of cycling. We're trying to create the new normal around cycling. The city of Brampton has done a really good job over the past year and a half, and particularly with COVID, in building new temporary bike lanes, which are now becoming permanent in the city, to create safer infrastructure for vulnerable road users like cyclists. And I'll talk about perceived distance in a moment. So Bike Brampton basically is, we're an advocacy organization. We're there to challenge our car-centric culture, particularly in the suburbs. We're there to work with our politicians to request politely or demand better choices, transportation choices, more choice, and to position ourselves so that we can follow this path to become a transformed city, which supports cycling and walking as a significant mode of transportation. We do that through programs like bicycle-friendly communities, through things like community-based social marketing, and through actions like encouragement and education, and different programming and events. I'll talk about those in a minute too. So the community-based social marketing basically says that starts with the premise that all these little changes, these little individual changes, add up to a larger whole. And by creating these personal changes, they become the gateway to public change. So if we have enough people doing cycling or walking for transportation, suddenly it does become the new norm, and suddenly we end up with a whole bunch more people doing it as a result. So we've created this social atmosphere called the Brampton Bike Hub. And within that, unfortunately, COVID has kind of made it that we're having to do this more virtually than in person, but hopefully we'll get back to that next year. And we offer things like bike repair training, weekly drop-in, lending library. We team mentors and proteges together. So mentors are experienced cyclists with lots of cycling skills, and with people that want to learn how to ride more comfortably and confidently on the roads. We do things like route planning. We do things like skills training through our CAN Bike instructor programs, and building confidence. So here's an example of a CAN Bike instructor working with a protege, teaching them how to do, as an adult, how to learn how to ride a bike. Here's the picture of our bike lending library at 50 Sunny Meadow Boulevard, and where you can borrow a bike for a really small deposit, which is 100% refundable when you return the bike to us. And here's an example of small group rides that we do, where the mentor provides some skills training in a safe, lower volume road, and then can migrate up to more heavily traveled routes. We also support, and in some cases help to organize events like Bike the Creek, which happens every June, except this past year. Community bike rides with the City of Brampton. Toronto Region Conservation Authority, we offer guided bike rides through them, through nature programs. And then other events like Bike to School Day, Bike to Work Day, and the Bike Works pop-ups. You may have seen us around on the trails in this past summer. I want to talk about the distance, because here's the interesting thing. People say, oh, it's too far to travel across Brampton by bike. Well, I've just drawn some concentric circles around this map to indicate a 12 to 15 minute ride, a 25 to 40 minute ride, and a 50 to 65 minute ride. And you can see that virtually you can get to anywhere in Brampton in less than an hour. And for most instances, you could travel from the northwest of Brampton to the airport in just over an hour. So, it's not that far. And in fact, if living in Heart Lake, if I wanted to travel to the airport by car, I would probably allot 35 to 40 minutes. So it's only going to take me maybe 10, 15 minutes longer to travel by bike. And meantime, I get the benefit of physical activity. I get the benefit of being able to wave to my neighbors as I go down the Etobicoke Creek Trail. And they smile at me, I smile at them, and we have this wonderful love fest. So it's really a neat way to help with your mental and physical a sense of wellness as you're traveling. We do collect a lot of trip data, and you can see that we've logged a lot of trips over the past year and a half, and in terms of hundreds of thousands of kilometers and lots of kilograms of CO2 that we've diverted instead of by car trips. And the Bike Brampton's philosophy is very much equity and inclusion, and supporting diversity of all stripes and colors and everything else. We also aim to produce positive role models in the community, and we run youth programs in the schools to teach cycling skills, training, and repair. And we try and do it as best as possible within a fun and social atmosphere. So we want to encourage people to join us and be part of that movement. It's all done with leadership. And I'm very pleased with the leadership that we've got in the City of Brampton right now. Most people think of Copenhagen as being that community that is the haven for cycling in the world. And yet, if you take a look at what it was in the 1960s, it was very much car-based culture. And it took political will and leadership to turn it into the Copenhagen today, which is very much focused on being bicycle and walking friendly. Bike Brampton does get involved in the occasional politics. We spend a fair amount of time at City Hall and have been known to meet with our members of Parliament and members of provincial Parliament from time to time. We really appreciate all the partnerships that we've been able to support and to drive over the number of years that we've been around. And so in terms of working together with Heart Lake Rides, we would like to see you folks come out and try biking if you want to do it, and as well as the runs and so on that you do for active living. But even if you can't do that, help to normalize cycling in your community. Support it with your friends and family. Choose a bike for transportation as the right means of transportation for those shorter trips. And in terms of the Grow Green Network, the Heart Lake Run can really help here by participating either organizationally or as individuals in the Grow Green Network, getting involved in a number of the city programs, and I've listed a few here in terms of the Community Energy and Emissions Reduction Program, which is a really exciting initiative. Stay tuned for more of that as we go. The Sustainable Neighborhood Action Plan, Action Program, which is running in several neighborhoods in Brampton. The Million Trees Program, which is being sponsored by the City of Brampton, the Eco Park Program, and the No Mow Program are just a few examples of the types of things that the City of Brampton really needs public support and public engagement in order to get it off the ground. And with that, I'll end with a quote from a past Vice President, Hubert H. Humphrey, who said that the test that we must set for ourselves is not to march alone, but to march in such a way that others will wish to join us. And that's really what we're all about. We're trying to build our community through cycling and through active transportation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to chat with all of you today. And I welcome any questions that you've got. I'm sorry I went over time a bit. Sorry about that.
No problem,
Thanks,
David.
back to you.
That was fantastic. I mean, you've definitely piqued some interest from people. We've got questions here, so I'll quickly ask them to you. Mark has asked, can bells on bikes be made mandatory for the safety of walkers on shared trails?
So here's the thing: they were already mandatory. It's Ontario law that a bicycle must have a bell or a horn, and in order to or some other noise-making device. And so when we were doing our pop-up bike work sessions, the Region of Peel gave us over 200 bells, and we installed over 200 bells on bikes on the pathways, and we hope to do that again next summer. But you know, for those that aren't, I mean, we're also handing out information about trail etiquette and pathway etiquette. And one of the things is that we find that that both pedestrians and cyclists really are not engaging each other. We know we've got cyclists that blow past pedestrians without ringing their bell or saying hi or anything else. We also have pedestrians that walk four abreast across the pathway, and basically when you ring your bell, they've got earbuds on or whatever, and they don't listen to you. They're not aware of their surroundings. So we need some more education about that. But bells, unfortunately, are already mandatory. There's a fine. I think it's $50 if you don't have a bell on your bike. So part of it, I guess, is education and a little bit maybe of enforcement as well.
Well, that's great, David. I mean, it's true. I mean, with the current environment, especially with the youngsters having the headphones on the ears, it can be challenging for cyclists as well as other pedestrians as well.
Yes. Yes.
But that's great. Thanks. The other question I have here is, how long can bikes be borrowed for? Hours, days? Are they adult bikes as well as kids' bikes?
So the Pedalwise program is specifically aimed at adults. Basically, you can join the program as a 16-year-old, but you must have parent consent. But most of our proteges are over 18. However, what we found is, and particularly in this last year, is that people are joining Pedalwise as a family. So in the bike library, and you didn't see the picture, but we have both adult bikes and children's bikes. In terms of the way that it works, we lend the bikes out for an unlimited period of time. So as long as you're using it and getting good use out of it, we're happy to have you use it. Most of our bikes are donated from members of the community. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is that, and this is more often than not, people don't set their bikes up, they don't fit their bikes properly, and so they ride them for a few kilometers, they are uncomfortable, they have the seat too low, their knees get sore, all kinds of different things, and they stop cycling. So then or they don't know how to repair the bike, they end up with a flat tire, the bike ends up sitting in the garage collecting dust. And then they donate it to us. And what we do is we refurbish the bikes. We try and train people on how to use them properly, how to maintain them properly, how to fit them properly, so that it's amazing. I mean, for me, I used to ride a bike that hurt. And after a few minutes, I was not happy on a bike. Now I've got bikes that fit me properly, and I can ride. I mean, I'm probably a little unusual. It's taken me a little while to gain the ability to ride 100 kilometers in a day. But anybody can ride 20 or 30 or 40 kilometers without pain as long as their bike is set up appropriately. So in answer to your question, we lend out those bikes basically with a small deposit because we want you to take care of it, but you can keep it for as long as you want. We have some people that then decide that they want to get a new bike and they return the old bike to us, then that's fine. We recycle it back into the community. But many of the people have borrowed a bike last year and they still have it.
Excellent. There's one other question. I'm not sure if you'll be the right person to answer this, but there's a question of is the city of Brampton planning to expand electric car charging stations before COVID? The gentleman was happily using the one at the soccer center, but I'm sure you've been in
Yeah.
meetings. Have they discussed it? Would you know?
So my understanding now, I unfortunately don't quote me on this because I'm not 100%, but I believe that I heard that that the charging stations at the soccer center were going to be reinstalled, and I know that the city is committed to installing more charging stations throughout at different parts of the city. So whether the ones specifically at the soccer center are going to be reinstalled or not, as I say, I'm not sure, but for sure. There is more money been allocated to install more charging stations throughout the city.
Excellent, David. Thank you very much for your time. The presentation, as usual, is fantastic. Really appreciate your time. And with that, we'll move on. And if there's any other questions out there, address it to the speaker that you want to answer it, and hopefully the speakers can look at the Q&A and be responding. So let's move on with the agenda. The next speakers, and I believe they're presenting together. That's Cole McConnell and Bill Godfrey. So let me just start off with introducing Cole. Cole is a 28-year-old audio engineer. He's a musician and Muay Thai enthusiast as well. He frequently goes on runs around the Heart Lake Conservation Area. And this is how he became aware of bad littering in Brampton. And he started the Heart Lake Cleanup, an Instagram account that shows and removes the kind of crazy garbage left out in the woods and on the Heart Lake Road. After meeting with Bill, he joined the People Against Littering movement and determined to create change in our community and make healthy changes for a litter-free city. And Bill Godfrey is 73 years old, married, and lived in Brampton for the past 40 years. About 4 years ago, he started cleaning up the parks near his house. This year, beginning in mid-March, he went out every day to eradicate litter. And this is what he calls his pandemic obsession. Over a 4-month period, he cleaned up 3 kilometers of the Etobicoke Creek Trail, 2 kilometers of the creek itself, and most of the surrounding wooded areas. He picked up over 30,000 pieces of litter and hauled out more than 2 tons of garbage. On May 14th, he started a Facebook group called People Against Litter, or PAL. Since June, PAL has conducted over 40 organized cleanups. With that, I want to say thank you very much to both Cole and Bill for attending. And Bill, I'm sure the garbage collectors must have you as a VIP when they come around your area.
To be honest with you, one of them does not like me.
I'm not surprised.
Seriously.
I'm not surprised. But with that, guys, go ahead. It's over to you. Cole and Bill.
Thank you so much, Farhan. So, hi everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar today. Bill and I are super excited to be able to share with you what we've been able to accomplish this year. In such a short time, actually, we only started this group since June, so that's almost 6 months now. We're just regular citizens who saw a need for immediate action, and with that, I'll let Bill explain to you what our group's all about.
First of all, let me say to David, that was a great presentation. A lot of what you said applies to us, that small individual changes make a major impact. Changing social norm and having events make people enjoy them. So that you'll find out that applies a lot to us. But PAL stands for People Against Littering. It's actually littering. It was against litter previously, but we are a grassroots volunteer movement. And this may sound cocky, but we believe in what we're going to do, but we are going to change the look of Brampton forever. We have a passion and we have a mission, and our goal is to do what most people, and it's sad, have given up on, a litter-free Brampton. And yes, I said a litter-free Brampton. And if you don't think that's possible, and if you don't think that can be achieved, then we're going to change your mind. And right now, if you think that way, your mindset is part of the problem. Our actual mission statement is to unite, inspire, and embolden citizens to take action against littering. Our goal is to empower communities and establish a new social norm, as David was talking about, where litter and littering are no longer tolerated. Cole?
So what we've been able to do so far over Instagram and Facebook through my Instagram account, Heartlake Cleanup, and Bill's Facebook account, Pal, we've been able to bring together over 500 people who consistently follow our posts and are enthusiastic about what we're showing you guys. We have a core group of about 4 of us, which you'll see pictures of the other 2, Tracy Phillips and Christina Cicconetti, who's actually speaking after us. The 4 of us have been able to grow the group and organize almost 50, up to 50 together, both Heartlake and PAL. And that's only been since June. We always have such a great time out there doing that. That's why people keep coming back. Right, Bill? We're always bringing people back.
Yep. Yeah, it's, I mean, I want to say something quickly about our members, because our members, and they're carrying PAL on our back, are some of the most dedicated, caring people that I have ever met. I am so very proud of them, and I am privileged to be able to work alongside them and honored to have them as friends. We cherish our wildlife. We love our clean, beautiful parks, pristine scenic forests, and unpolluted waterways. And that's why we clean up trash and litter. We work side by side, we support each other and motivate, embolden one another, and we have each other's backs when things get tough. And hey, you know what? We have a lot of fun. We're becoming a family and that cares about each other, and that's exactly what I want.
So now, just to give you guys a little background, we'll get Bill to explain how he got into this, cleaning up on Etobicoke Creek Trail.
Actually, the bio that was given covers it, so I'll just quickly skip all that. I cleaned up a ton of trash and a large area, but basically I'll go to the fact that PAL right now is my life. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. And that's to the dismay of my wife, unfortunately. But I mean, I'm on it 24 hours a day from the middle of the night, excited and stimulated by ideas that I have. The ideas are merciless. They don't stop, and I guess that's a good thing. But it's what I'm dedicated to, and it's my passion. And Cole started in a different kind of a route.
Yeah, it's when I started. I'm a frequent runner. I love running. And I'm fortunate enough to live near the conservation area, so I use that as my running loop, and it always takes me out onto Heart Lake Road. And for the last two years, about every time I go down the shoulder, I notice that there's just a ton of garbage. It's not just loose trash getting blown in from the wind or people's discarded coffee mugs. It's contractors and whoever else, maybe just ignorant homeowners that are coming out and discarding massive amounts of waste. Like you can see in this photo that there's some HVAC supplies, there's buckets, carpets. We pull out thousands of tires. We've pulled out at least 18 sets of tires, and it's insane. Like literally everything and the kitchen sink, you know. So I decided that this year was the year. I got my chance, thanks to COVID, that I could dedicate enough time to start getting into the trenches and pulling out what I saw. And to my amazement is that it's actually still terrible. And even though we've been out there many times over the summer and with a lot of people, this dumping is still happening. And so we're working towards that as a group trying to get this out of here. So what we do mainly is we focus on places that have been completely sort of neglected in terms of the city's, I want to say, attention. As you can see here in this picture, Lakelands Village is it's a beautiful little area. They got 2 beautiful ponds there, and this one, you wouldn't notice the garbage on the shoreline unless you got close enough to see it. And once we did, it's just endless. There's millions of bottle caps and plastic bottles there, and so the city can't necessarily get in through these bushes all the time with employees, as I'm sure they're dealing with a massive amount of garbage all over the place, and just the regular routes. So luckily enough, us at PAL, we're crazy enough to want to jump into these places and restore them to their natural beauty.
Yeah, that was an interesting challenge. I remember when I first found out about it, we were cleaning up in that area, and they had Janet Brown came running out. Bill, you got to see this trash. You got to see this. This is worse than Alan Kerbal. Alan Kerbal was a mess. And wow, we got there, and we had 6 of us down on our knees scraping up litter. We were trying to get the litter off the water's edge, and you couldn't get it, such tiny pieces. After 2 hours, I told everybody, I said, we got to stop. We got to stop. It was becoming too demoralizing, too discouraging. And I decided at that time we were going to have to pass it on to the city. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't be acceptable to us. It's not PAL style to pass on tough cleaning jobs to the city unless it is deemed absolutely necessary due to safety reasons or the city demands it. But even then, we hate to do it. So we got the idea of using kitchen strainers, attaching them to poles. And that worked perfect. We were able to scoop out litter from the water and walk in, and that solved the problem. Perfect solution. Sometimes it takes a little bit of MacGyvering to do these things. And
so this next one is of another trouble area, and this is over by the Bramalea City Center. This is Knightsbridge Park, which Bill actually discovered. And Bill, you should let them know what you think about this place.
I chose Knightsbridge Park because it is notorious as one of the worst littered parks in Brampton. And to me, that's evidence of a community that has failed, and honestly, a city that doesn't care enough. It has existed like that for years. So I wanted to prove what a small group of dedicated, caring volunteers could do. And we went in there October 24th with the help of TRCA. We pulled out 700 pounds of trash in one small area. We went back again another 4 times and ended up getting a total of 1,500 pounds of trash out of that area. Now we've done our part. Now what we want the city to do is to do their part, because there is a problem of blowing trash from the apartments. But we wanted to show what citizens, when they unite and they have that passion, they can do it. Now we've done it. We hope it goes further.
Another one of these areas that we're focused on is the conservation itself. The 2 ladies on the left are Tracy Phillips, who we mentioned earlier, and Janet Brown. These 2 ladies are amazing, and they're amazing members of PAL as well. They're always going into the forest, picking up after hikers and fishermen and people who use the park regularly, because it seems that people's mentality is that they can just leave whatever they bring into the forest there, and somebody will deal with it. Well, it shouldn't be the mentality, unfortunately. But thanks to these 2 ladies, they go out and they make it right. The tractor tire is actually how I ended up meeting them for the first time. I was walking the shoreline and I noticed it was there and decided that I was going to be stupid enough to jump into the lake and get the thing out of there. And they were just walking by on their normal daily cleanup, and they, without a second's hesitation, they asked if they could help me, and we the 3 of us rolled it over to the boathouse, and we got TRCA to take it out.
You know, and I don't think Cole mentioned, I believe you went in barefooted to get it out. But we have kind of a joke with our group when we run across something really tough, really huge. It's the most disgusting piece of trash and it's dirty. Call Cole. That's what we. And by the way, Tracy Phillips and Janet Brown, as Cole mentioned, they are 2 of our PAL superstars. They have combined unbelievably, logged in over 1,000 hours going into Heart Lake Conservation Park. They started early in March, and I would love if later on if we can get Tracy to talk about that. I'm hoping she's on in the group. But these guys, they really care. They really care about our parks and our environment.
Here, Bill, talk to them about the Camden storm drain.
This drain had bugged me for ages. I had walked by it. It's not easily accessible. You got to fight your way through the woods. In fact, you have to go up and over a hill and down a path, and it's a real struggle. But it had bothered me for weeks and weeks. And then I decided I had to do something about it, no matter how disgusting it was. So I started it one day, got some done. And then the second day I had posted about this. This was that the group was formed, but I hadn't been out on any group. We hadn't organized any groups. And one lady said that she was willing to help. And this lady was amazing, Melody. And Melody Papagiannis. And she helped me clean it up. We got 180 pounds of trash from that crap there, 180 pounds of it. And ever since then, I've decided, I mean, she was friendly, she was hardworking, she was terrific. I decided, wow, from now on, I don't want to work alone if I can avoid it. You know, it kind of showed me what you can do even just with one other person. Thank you, Melody, by the way, if she's listening, but probably not.
So that's kind of how we decided to, how we started getting people in it. Over the cleanups, we got into a rhythm and we established a formula that works, which is, first off, we put out a call to action over our social media platform.
That formula just work our butts off?
Yeah, well, that too.
The formula? Sorry.
Yeah, that is the normal, that is our normal approach, is just get in there and get it done. But for everybody else, we put out a call to action, we call the city and we let them know where we're going to clean up, so that they'll have somebody put on hold for us to pick up our piles. And then Bill starts divvying out all the tools that we need.
Yeah, we provide litter pickers, garbage bags, and gloves, and that's actually provided to us by Brampton Parks. So we are getting some help, and that is greatly appreciated.
So the things we end up finding are pretty, the spectrum is huge. Like, we'll find things that have been discarded moments ago, or like this toilet that was probably discarded a day ago, to this calendar. And if you look in the bottom left corner, it says January 1988, which only just proves that if people like us aren't out there, it's going to stay there.
I got that thing from the back behind my house in the creek, and it was in the mud of the bank. And that was proof that people always say to me, you know, like, oh, it must be a lot of trash because they didn't have a spring cleanup this year. No, folks, this stuff has been here for decades. There's a Dominion stores cart. I got a piece of it out, and they haven't existed since 2008. Rusted, we get rusted barrels. Again, think disintegrating plastic bags. For decades, folks, it's been there for decades and nobody's done anything about it. And that's what we do now.
So this is what you can expect from a normal cleanup. This one is what we were talking about, Knightsbridge Park. Like, this was that 700 pounds that Bill was referencing earlier. We pulled out so much garbage out of this park. And weeks later, it's exactly the same. The next couple slides are going to just show you the amount, the volume, and how passionate we are about actually getting this out of here. This is the Heart Lake Road cleanup, the normal occurrence with the tires, and then whatever else we end up finding. In this one, we found a shrine, which wasn't so lucky apparently, and then a cooler that I'm pretty sure Taylor, our buddy on the left, took home with him. And
by the way, Cole has worked that before I joined him, and we've cleaned up all the way from Mayfield Road down to Sandalwood, and I'll tell you, that is one heck of a lot of trash.
Yeah, this is actually the first photo of Bill and Christina joining me on a Heart Lake cleanup, which was dope because Christina just messaged me over Instagram and said, "Hey, you guys are doing great things. Let's hookup, and I was like, yeah, we're going to be out here at the right this time, and she brought Bill with her, and now we've built this entire community of garbage groupies, which is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, Christina was all excited. She says, this real cool, dedicated group. So I'm doing Heart Lake Road. So I just drove out and I saw Cole, and he's a pretty cool looking dude. You know, he's actually has hair. You know, that was fantastic. And hey, you need some help? He says, sure, come on. And that's how we met each other.
So what is this cleanup here with Tobacco?
That was myself and Janet Bond. That was at the bridge that crosses joined from Loafers Lake. It goes north to the park is separated by a bridge and the lake and the other park. We got all that crap out. And what's next, Cole?
This is Tracy and Christina, our two other hopeful pals, you know.
My God, Tracy and Christina, they have been my biggest supporters from day one. And I honestly, this is true, I don't know if PAL would exist today without their help. I've been with these two ladies through thick and thin, often with Cole in the trenches beside Heart Lake Road, hauling out huge truck tires and some of the most disgusting stuff you would ever think of. We waded in creeks side by side, fought through thorn bushes, been on our knees scraping up tiny pieces of fingernail-sized litter out of the dirt. Our clothes gets filthy. We get cuts and scratches and bruises, always working together. And you know what? I have never been on a cleanup when these hilarious, hardworking, dedicated ladies have not made me laugh. Cole said it and he's right. They are truly amazing. Thank you guys, gals.
As you can see on every single one of our cleanups, we're always trying to bring people together. We're always pulling out massive amounts, and we always have to return to the same places. And we never ask to get paid. We barely find any cash.
Oh, but we do, Cole. Sometimes we get a little bit of money.
Yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes we get a little bit.
Sometimes a little bit more.
Hey, and then sometimes.
A lot. There you go. $100 bill I got.
So sometimes it does pay. We also return every empty that we find. And over the beginning, I've almost collected almost $200 in empty, which is the only thing. These next couple slides are going to just show you what we're trying to promote. And it's not that, like, even if you can't come out on a cleanup or you don't think you have the motivation to do this with us or be as hardcore as Bill, Tracy, and we don't want you to feel obligated. What we want is for you to start building good habits. Like these two boys here, they're just going out with a bag and a picker. They're picking up what they can and then just starting it as they go, which is great. If everybody did that, it would be a huge impact. We wouldn't have to climb into the bushes anymore. Bill, who are these two guys? You know them.
That's Miraj and Armand. And I met them through their father, Grabir, at Loafers Lake. And we've been on a few cleanups, and this is outside their home, and they've been doing it on their own. So, I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's 7 years old and 10 years old, these guys. One of them is what he calls the young guy. He says pollution picking. He doesn't call it litter picking. He's out pollution picking. They're fantastic guys. You have my neighbor, Cole?
Yeah.
Where's that? Yeah, that's my neighbor, Chris. And one day I gave her one of those cheap dollar store pickup sticks, which don't last long. But she loved it. She was so happy to have it. And then she bought the one she has there, and she goes out when she walks a dog. So if you're a dog walker like Christina, then you go out with her pickup stick and take your grandkids with you if you have them. And she gets a little bit every day. It's just fantastic. And next we have, next one, Cole. That's Amy. She's been picking up 4 years, maybe longer than me. And she says, oh, Bill, I only pick up, well, we jumped from Amy, but Amy said she only picks up along the path. I said, Amy, that is fantastic. That's all we need. The next one, the father and the daughter joined a cleanup group. The next one, Cole, for the next slide, Cole. Yeah, right there. This couple, this father and daughter joined as like Kiwanis. They saw us cleaning up and said, "Can we join?" Sure, go ahead. And this is what we find. We're inspiring other people. We're setting the example. As David said, we're trying to establish a new social norm. It is catching on slowly. It's working.
So Bill, what is our plan here for Knightsbridge?
Well, see, this highlights the problem. We were there last weekend, and this is what you can see. You can see on the left, that's the trash. And we cleaned that area up twice already. And this time we said, no, we can't do this again. And there's the problem on the right. It's the garbage that's in, and this is where we really need on for years. So again, it's a cooperative effort. It's our group working with the city, working with whatever organizations, but we all have to work together. So we're hoping that we need to find solutions around picking it up all the time.
So one thing that we are grateful for is Jessica Scupp's help. Jessica Scupp's works for the city, and she's been extremely enthusiastic with us working this entire time. And she provided with us like over 50 pickers. And without her help, we wouldn't be able to get the groups out that we do.
She's been a lifesaver. I don't know, like from the very beginning, my goal was I'll just get individuals picking up. You know, like I was picking up on my own. I didn't really want to get into organized groups. I just wanted to support individuals or families to get out. But everybody wanted organized groups, but I didn't have litter pickers. Folks, our movement, our group is a $0 budget group, $0 budget. And I'll tell you what we've accomplished on a $0 budget is phenomenal. You know, and it's just like, I just think if we had a decent budget funding, what we could have done this year would have been 10 times phenomenal. And
well,
next
as Bill said, our mission is to create a litter-free city, and we'll do whatever we can to get there. You guys will see us in the future, and that's for sure. As long as we can keep drumming up support from the city, we'll be out there and we'll be tearing up these bushes.
I just want to say, I won't take too much more time because I assume our time is running out. But a litter-free city, just think about what it would mean for Brampton. Just think about it, people. Just how valuable would that be for Brampton? What kind of reputation would they have from that? And what does it show when you see a litter-free city or even a litter-free lawn? What does that mean? That means that the people reside there. They care about their city. They take ownership, as David said.
Did we lose Bill? Cole, do you want to take over?
As Bill is trying to say,
they take ownership of that property. And we find that too, when we clean up a park, if you have people like that in a city, you attract investment.
Sorry, Bill, you ended up cutting out there for a little bit.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you have a city like that with no litter, a clean city, that's the type of city that people want to bring their companies to. That's the type of city they want to invest in. So to me, it's really pays off in the long run. And guys, it can be done. It can be done with political will, with corporate help, with people like PAL who are willing to sacrifice, and funding. We have no funding. You know, we don't have those nice signs that David and the other groups I see that they have to put up, and we need them when we get out, and that's going to be our strategy. One of our strategies, I'll tell you one of our strategies very quickly. We want to hit a park, okay? We get the group, we're going to go up at 3 o'clock, get out in the morning. Now, we don't have this now. We put up big signs announcing people against littering coming to do a cleanup. It's coming at 3 o'clock. Why don't you join us? You know, if you don't like litter, join us, folks. And then when we get there, we're going to have nice uniforms, which we don't have because we don't have funding, nice bright t-shirts. We want to be walking billboards. We go there, we get out litter sticks, we walk out with pride, we're laughing, we're joking, we're this social norm that it's fun to litter pick. People see it. We have maybe a table set up where someone can hand out our little paper business cards to people. We engage people. We establish a new social norm where little litter picking is not only acceptable, it's almost obligatory. And it is working in a small way, but it will work even better next year. We are really hoping to get funding to have this in place so that we can hit next year with a huge bang so that we can shock Brampton. And we're gonna do it, right, Cole?
Oh yeah. If you think we don't have fun, just take a look at these two ladies. Look at them.
Uh-oh.
Knee deep in the creek. Thanks everybody for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. We definitely,
guys, Cole, can I just mention very quickly? I just want to say very quickly, folks. I just want to say a special thank you. I want to thank the people who have put an extra effort to help get PAL rolling, and those that are basically carrying PAL on their backs. I'm talking about Cole, Christina, Tracy, Victoria, Doug, Sandy, Ivan, Janet Brown, Maureen, Joan, Debbie, Janet Bond, Cassandra, Ion, Sarah, Luke, Kitty, Kabir, Riley, Micah, Laura, Jeetpal, Steph, Shito, LJ, Leo and Leah from Heart Lake Happenings. I adore you guys all. And you know what? A very special thank you to someone that I love to death. And it's a big reason why I'm doing this. My tiny 8-month-old grandson, Will. He's my motivation for trying to make this planet a better place to live. Thank you very much, everybody.
Will and Cole, you guys did an amazing, amazing job. You have inspired everyone on this call here, you know, and I'm already seeing people that are ready to volunteer and help you out. Even though it's a $0, you know, organization, but it's 100% effective and efficient. You guys have been doing an amazing, amazing job. And you know, again, it's all about getting the word out. So I think you've inspired many people here, and I'll let you read the chat so you can see how inspired people have been. But there are some questions as well. So I'll ask those questions. Christina, if you don't mind giving me about 5 minutes, let me go through, because again, this is a fantastic topic, and I think near and dear to many people, because everybody goes for walks. And the little thing that they can do is to walk out with gloves and garbage bag and picker. They can achieve a lot more. So that's fantastic. So there's one question here from Leah.
You know what? Yes. I figured 1%.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just going to say, if we had, you mentioned a little bit, if we had 1% of the population pick up 5 pieces of litter a week, and just for 30 weeks, we would have at the end of the year over 1 million pieces of litter out of our environment. That's all it would take. So you're very right about that, just one little bit at a time. So thank you for saying that.
The other thing that you didn't mention, which I thought would be interesting, is Brampton has an app called Brampton 311. And within this app on your phone, there's litter and graffiti, and you can report where there's shopping carts to be removed or debris or obstructions. And these things do work. I actually did report a trail that was uneven, and they actually fixed it. So it does work, and they did call back. They did call back to make sure that that work was done. So it's efficient. So people who use their phones as well.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
just say
So-
something? Let me
Yes,
say
Bill.
something. And back in my place, I pulled out 12 shopping carts. I pulled out picnic tables. If I had called the city, they would hate me. And those carts, I'm sorry, nothing against the city. I had to dig out shopping carts. I dug out a shopping cart last week that took me an hour in the gravel
Wow.
and rocks. The city is not, the city, they don't have the resources to do that. There's a shopping cart back in my creek right now that's buried up. All you can see is part of the handle. So how many decades has that been there? You know, so no, you know what? We see something, we clean it up. I know sometimes the city doesn't like that, but we just do it. That's PAL, you know, unless it's unsafe. Sorry
Absolutely.
for interrupting.
We can definitely see the passion
Oh my
with
God.
both of you. That's fantastic. So let's get to the questions. It's from Leah. It says, it feels like there will always be litter around, either intentionally left behind or so, as you say, due to being blown away. How does the group keep PAL volunteers energized and not suffer from litter burnout or embittered from cleaning up litter that other people have left behind?
It's the community aspect of it that keeps people coming back. When you're out there with other people who have the same mindset as you, people who are also very passionate about conserving our planet and counteracting the litter that is out there, it's enough motivation to keep you coming back. And as it is just civilians and volunteers, we're always open to more ideas. You know, anything that can drive the group forward, anything that can drive innovation in this sort of developing industry, which is something that I think keeps everybody coming back.
That's fantastic.
we
And
need
you
to
need-
recruit more because they
you
will
need-
burn out.
yes,
You know, we
And
have
I
to
think-
face reality. The reality is, and I'm a realist. The reality is right now our PAL is being carried by a small group of people. We have 500 supporters, but a small group of very active, and they are going to burn out. I'll tell you, I'm going to burn out. There hasn't been a day since I only took 2 days off the rock climb this year. You know, and I realize that, but we have to recruit more so we have backup. So we don't expect our hardcore to come out every week. And that will happen. We'll get that this year. And we'll see results. We're going to get parks adopt all this. I got so many ideas I can't discuss here. If someone ever wants, I'm going to prepare my strategy for next year. And I'll tell you, it'll blow people away. I hope.
So Bill, we lost you a little bit there, but you know, Cole, I think the biggest thing is having events like this, reach out to people. Like I said, you've created a lot of awareness, and people are curious and excited to see the passion and want to join your organization. So hopefully more events like this will definitely help get the word out and get people coming in. So let's just move on with the questions. We have another question from Christine. She's asking, does PAL have access to a pickup truck, or do you pay to take the garbage to CRC?
We call 311 and they'll come and pick us up. I've made a good contact working Heart Lake Road. I don't want to say his name just in case, but I call him directly and he comes out, and no matter what time he'll be out there for me. And then, as we said before, we always post about where we're going to be. And when we do the post, we let the city know that we'll be out there, and the employees come do it for us, which is great.
That's
'Cause
great.
We
So
don't
that
actually
was
own any truck.
that goes to the next question: is do you post when and where you plan to go? So if I was available to join you tomorrow, I could see where you'll be, or is it best for us to contact you personally? No.
I'll always just refresh to the PAL page, and you'll see where we're going to be. Sometimes the cleanups can be pretty spontaneous. We have done, like Bill and I, like we're always out there on our own most of the time, just doing what we can. But when we do post in the group, which is frequent, we always let them know at least like a day or two in advance.
Okay,
Yeah, we can
that's
have
fantastic.
spontaneous cleanup. Sometimes some people say they call and say, "Can I get a litter picker?" So I bought some that I sell to people, and I say, "Well, listen, where do you live? Why don't I come out with you? Why don't we go out? So yes, sometimes they are spontaneous, and sometimes it doesn't please the park people because we try to give the 7 days notice, but if there's something needs cleaned up, we clean it up and then we call them. But so a lot
Excellent.
of spontaneous cleanups also.
That's great. Cole, if I could ask you to please put the site on the chat as well so that others can see it as well. That'll be fantastic. There's another question here is to Bill and Cole. Any ideas on how we can educate people not to litter so that you're out of business?
Yeah, well, we want to go out of business. The main thing is for us to set the example. It's establish a new social norm, just like David said. And we're going to have to get thousands of people involved, but we have to get out there and show them that this is what you do. You don't accept litter. You don't let litter take away from your enjoyment of the outdoors. Litter is controlling us. When you walk past a piece of litter, if anybody does that and they leave it, they're letting that piece of litter, that person that littered control their life. When you pick it up, you take back control. You put it in the garbage can and now you have a big smile. You go out the next day, no more frowning at that piece of litter that's bugged you for a week. And that's what we're trying to do, set an example, show people what happens. And that's what we think will work.
Yeah, so Bill,
Bill's right. The only thing that we really get out of it is the instant gratification. And that's just doing that is enough for us. And if I could go out of business because I did my part, I would be very happy.
No, and that shows, especially with the mountain of garbage that Christina was standing on. It showed how gratifying it was in that picture. It definitely shows enough, self-gratification there for sure. So, I'll give a small example. I had gone to Japan, and Japan is one of the cleanest places I've ever seen in my life. And then
they know how
doing
to do it.
And doing a little bit of research, it's instilled on the kids from kindergarten all the way, throughout their lives to clean up. So they would clean up in schools, they would pick garbage. So it's instilled from an early age, to be clean, not to litter, and it carries on throughout. I tell you, because over here we are walking and eating at the same time. I did it there. I had an apple, I ate it, and I didn't know where to throw. I looked for a garbage and I couldn't find the garbage bin. I had to keep it in my pocket until I reached my hotel. Nobody was eating in the trains, nothing. So they're very disciplined that way. And I think it takes time to get to that level. But it's right, we have to start off at an early age.
Can I interrupt just for a minute?
Go ahead,
One
Bill.
of our successes is back in the area that I cleaned up, took 4 months. It's back in the Camden Park area. I cleaned it all up, but there was thousands of pieces of litter. Now it's kept clean, not just by PAL people, other people. I walk there and I see people, if they see a piece of litter, because it's only one stand, doesn't belong there anymore. Earlier in the year, they wouldn't have dared, because I would try to walk to the library up at Cyril Clark, and I wouldn't get there because I would stop in a small area, taking me 15 minutes to clean it up. And so people wouldn't do it, but now they do it. And Christina will tell you too, around Loafers Lake, because she's always walking around Loafers Lake. People are doing it now. They still shouldn't litter. We still have to do something about that. I really believe we need stricter enforcement, but that is a success. It does show it can work.
Absolutely. You only live by example, and you guys are doing an amazing job. I want to thank you for all your efforts, and hopefully I can join you in your quest as well. There's others on the group chat, in the attendance as well, who are keen on joining. So, we look forward to working with you. So we've kept Christina waiting for a while, and she's been patient. Christina, thank you very much for your patience. With that said, if you can introduce yourself, they've really set a bar for you. They've said good things about you, and they've kept us waiting for the best for the last. So please go ahead, Christina.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I am super excited about this whole conference. It's really exciting to me to know that there's so many people that are passionate about the environment and the climate and wildlife and everything. It's just awesome. So thank you. And I really enjoyed listening to everybody talk, and especially Pal. Bill and Cole are two of my most favorite people ever. I am so happy I met them. Everything they're doing is absolutely amazing. I am beyond impressed by the amount of effort and work that they've put in. It's just incredible. And I'm happy they ate up a good chunk of my time, because I am not I'm not a techie conference type of girl. I am more an outdoors, picking up trash, saving wildlife type of person. It took me a good 2 hours to figure out how to even get on here. So that being said, I'm here to represent a new group called Heart Lake Turtle Troopers, which has been formed just within the last month or so. And I have some slides that I can share to go along with that. I can figure it out.
Yeah, the share screen button. Yep.
Can
There we go.
everybody, can
Yes,
people see it?
We can.
Excellent. Okay. Do I start presentation?
Yes, if you go and where it shows present on just below share. Yep, there we
Yes.
go. Just next to share. There we go.
Okay. So Heart Lake Turtle Troopers, we formed this group, like I said, just within the last month or so. Our mission is to support the protection and monitoring of the local turtle population by working in partnership with community awareness, recruit and engage citizen volunteers, and organize and deliver public engagement activities. A little bit about myself. So I am a lifelong animal lover and animal welfare advocate. Grew up in Brampton, love wildlife, and have found myself rescuing a number of different creatures over the years. And while I was out monitoring some turtles' nests one day, I noticed a small painted turtle on a log that had a piece of fishing line sticking out of its mouth. I realized that this was the result of somebody had been fishing, maybe caught this turtle by accident, and maybe cut the line, or the line may have broken, but the hook was lodged into its throat and it needed an operation, actually. So I was able to get it. And after one failed attempt, Lori came out to help me. And this turtle went to the Toronto Wildlife Centre for a pretty invasive surgery to remove it. And it was treated and released back out only 10 days later. So this turtle was featured in Toronto Wildlife Centre's Wildlife Tales, which is a newsletter that they send out to donors. And it's pretty cool because there was, oh, I skipped past my slides. Oh. Here we go. So there was a 2-page write-up on this turtle, just sort of raising awareness about the issue with fishing line and hooks and stuff when they're being left. And that's a big part of the reason why I joined PAL, is because I hate seeing litter around, and I hate the way that it affects our environment and wildlife. And I wanted to do something about it. I was upset and angry with a lot of the things that I was seeing, and I wanted to make a change. And so I'm very fortunate to have met the people that I did over the past, this summer has been amazing. I've met all the best people. Oh. Am I still on?
Yes, we can hear you sharing your whole desktop rather than the presentation now.
Oops.
No,
so
no
as you
problem.
can see, this is not my forte. I'm sorry.
No,
There we
it's
go.
coming. It's coming. Yeah, there we go. It's good.
Okay. There we go. So this turtle was a giant snapping turtle that I found while at Loafer's Lake. I was doing a routine dog walk with one of the dogs that I walk and noticed this snapping turtle out of water at a strange time of year. So normally you only see snapping turtles usually out of the water when they're traveling from their hibernation site or when they're getting ready to lay their eggs. So this one here was out sort of right in the middle of the summer. They shouldn't really be at that time. And then I noticed as I got closer that the back of the shell here you can see is all caved in. And I noticed right around here all of the leeches around its neck and its tail. So I knew something was wrong. Just knowing what a snapping turtle should look like. And I recognized that this wasn't what a snapping turtle should look like. So called a friend, they came and helped me collect it. This turtle went to Toronto Wildlife Center as well. And they removed all the leeches. They x-rayed him, determined that the shell injury was actually an old injury, possibly from being run over by a car, maybe even on Heart Lake Road before the eco fences and tunnels were installed, and wasn't affecting his way of turtling whatsoever. So that was good. Gave him some salt baths and some good meals, and then he was released back to our local lake. These are some turtles' nests in the area. Some of these have been dug up by predators, such as minks or skunks, raccoons. Lots of things will go after turtle eggs. So this is actually how I met Lori, who is who's partnered with me in forming Heart Lake Turtle Troopers. I was taking a look at these nests and actually picking up some broken glass around the ground, and she asked me what I was doing, and I told her, and she was pretty excited to hear that we had so many turtles and nests around, and she was also concerned about some of the things that I told her, some of the threats that are around for turtles, such as poaching and nests being dug up by predators, you know, being hit by cars on roads, that kind of thing. Also, in a high traffic area like the city, or a lot of the city parks, a lot of the time turtles will come out to lay their eggs and then they're disturbed by people. So they're not able to go about their proper nesting routine, and they may have to return to the water. And if they're disturbed too much, they become egg bound and they won't survive. So it's important that we leave them alone when they're trying to lay their eggs. So our group, Heart Lake Turtle Troopers, started with one person with a love and passion for protecting the natural world, and it has blossomed quickly into a group of beautiful people that have come together to make a difference. And we went from 2 members just a month ago to 131 members on our Facebook group. So we have exciting things, not too much content as of yet, but exciting things to come in the future for sure. So please join Heart Lake Turtle Troopers on Facebook if you can. That would be excellent. This is a little bit about the turtle population, and I know that David Laing knows a lot about this. He worked with this project on Heart Lake Road, the monitoring of the turtle study and all of that, to work on getting the eco fencing and tunnels. And I wish that during that time I was able to focus on that and be a part of that. I wasn't, because my kids were small, but I'm really impressed by the work that they did there. This is just an article about poaching, which sadly does exist, especially in cities. And that's it for sharing. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Not on the Q&A yet, but that was a fantastic presentation. And I'm impressed that within a month you've made so many people part of your group. And I think it's always, you know, gratifying to see people help wildlife out there. And again, it starts at early ages to teach youngsters about protection and preservation of wildlife. And
that's a
what
big
you're
part
doing,
of.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a big part of what we want to do with our group. And my main reason for wanting to form the group is to engage with families, community members, especially children, right? And just educate. And with PAL as well, right? Because littering is a big part of destruction of the turtle habitat. So I really am excited for the spring and next summer. Some of the volunteer opportunities and events that we're planning on having. I can't say too much because we don't have anything officially planned as of yet, but there are some exciting things in the works. And I'm really happy to be able to share that with you guys today.
So Christina, I know, especially with snapping turtles, you got to be very careful on approaching them and picking them up. I mean, do you train people how to do that? Or I know you've got few people, but
yeah,
few people right now. But
that is one of the things that we're looking into doing, is having educational events like that explain how to move turtles. So for example, if you see a snapping turtle in the middle of the road, you want to 100% get that snapping turtle out of the way, because protecting that one adult snapping turtle could mean the difference between an entire population of turtles existing and not existing. So one adult turtle being wiped out could wipe out a whole population of turtles, and they are an extremely important part of our environment. So to move a snapping turtle, you want to be careful. They can snap their head around, a little past halfway around their shell sometimes. So you want to do what's called the pizza carry, which I'll use this turtle here. So you want to put one hand here, and then you want to slide the other one underneath and lift them this way. Either that, or an excellent thing to do is to grab the floor mat that's in your car, and you just take your floor mat and just sort of shove them along. They don't like it, but yeah, like a spatula and a cookie, just sort of get it under there and shove it across the road. You always want to put it in the direction it's going, of course. Never pick up a turtle off the road and put it back into a lake somewhere or something like that. They're going there because they want to lay their eggs. They've probably worked so hard to make it there. So the best thing you can do is to just move them in the direction they're going, to the opposite side of the road. You can put them a little off the side of the road, but not too far. And that's about it. If you need help moving a snapping turtle, you don't feel safe doing it, you can always reach out to anybody in our group. I'm sure they'd be happy to come help you. Anybody local.
The prop you used was great. That really helped visualize it. It was good. That's fantastic. So if you don't mind me asking you, how many turtles are there in Heart Lake right now? Do we know the numbers?
You know what? I'm actually not sure. There was a study done. So I am not an expert on turtles, and I want to become one. But there was a study done for the Heart Lake Road project a few years ago that outlined, and I wish that I could find, I was looking for it to share, but there is if you look it up, Heart Lake Road study on turtles, there is a graph that outlines exactly what they found and what types of turtles they found. So with the wetlands on Heart Lake Road, there is a pretty dense population of turtles. And I know that because of the efforts that have been made by our city, which has been tremendous with helping wildlife and the environment compared to other cities, actually, with the wetlands there is a pretty good population of them. And also, sorry, with the eco fencing and the eco tunnels that have been installed recently, that has increased the population of the turtles. It's been proven. So we're headed in the right direction.
No, that's fantastic. You've started a great cause here, and I think it's just going to grow. You've got
Yes.
you're creating awareness to the participants here as well, and I'm sure you're if you can post your Facebook page on the chat, that would be great. I did post for the PAL as well there, so hopefully people who are there can see it and join. I think another thing also is, Christina, have you if people find baby turtles, have you heard of people moving them to totally a different area just because they live close by that area, put it into a water catchment area? Have you heard of that, people doing that? And
Yes.
obviously it's not a good idea.
Yeah, so it's always best to put the baby turtle to the closest water that you can find, because their environment, they imprint on that from, I think, before they even hatch. I don't know. I want to find out more, but but I'm almost sure that the moment they hatch out of that shell, before they even come out of the ground, they know their surroundings, and you can never relocate a turtle, even a freshly hatched baby. It's got to go to the closest. They won't survive if you relocate them somewhere else. So you want to put them into you want to try to put them into a wetland, swampy, pondy sort of area over a stream or a river if you can. But whatever is close by, and it's always a good idea to help a baby snapping or baby turtle of any kind. With babies, you don't need to follow the rule of putting them in the direction they're heading. It's only with adults that you have to do that. So with the babies, sometimes they don't know which way they're going, and you just want to get them to the water before they're snapped up by birds or other predators, humans even. So yeah, best to move them to the swampiest water you can find close by.
That's great information, Christina. Thank you very much. And we have gone over time. My apologies. But,
Sorry.
Again, great speakers, great topics. I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart all the speakers that have been there today. I want to also thank the Ephraim, our president, and the team that have worked in the background, Vanika and Minnie and Raphael as well. Thank you all very much. Appreciate everyone's efforts here to make this event a success. Thank you guys, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.